Let's see, are we live yet? And we are live, and good evening, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of the African American Athlete Live Street, coming to you on Zoom tonight. Hope everybody out there is doing well. Here with my friend and frat brother, Michael Robinson, coming to you on a Tuesday evening, Mike, as we're heading into another busy sports weekend this fall. College football is settling in. I think this will be week 4 for a lot of teams. Week 3 in the NFL. Got the WNBA playoffs going on. Got Major League Baseball heading down the home stretch. And brother, I know you out there trying to cover everything.
Yeah, well, and here's the crazy thing with the WNBA playoffs. You know, we had a unique situation going on out here. The Golden State Valkyries were basically breaking records for the inaugural team, you know, for an expansion team. So they managed to make the playoffs first time ever, even though you could kind of say, wait a minute, weren't all those teams expansion when the WNBA just opened? Back in the day when the Houston Comets were absolutely dominating the league. But yeah, as an expansion team in the 25 years or so of the WNBA, the Valkyries made history, and they sold out every game. They sold out every game over at Chase Center. And then the indignity of being that meteoric team, they get to the playoffs and they kind of backed into the playoffs, even though had a good standing, but they faltered down at the end of the week or the end of the season. So they end up as an 8th seed instead of a 6th seed. 6th seed, they would have played Atlanta, and Atlanta just got upset by Indiana. So I'm sure the Valkyries are looking at that. Instead, they ended up at 8th seed, and they only ended up at 8th seed because they lost to Seattle, and Seattle barely made it into the playoffs, but Seattle had the tiebreaker against them. So they went from 6th all the way down to 8th, just like that, because they had a losing streak coming into the playoff. Right. So that whole Cinderella thing that was going on, it kind of fell by the wayside. And then game 2, they played the first game in Minneapolis, because Minnesota's been like the best team all year. So then game 2 should have been in San Francisco at the Chase Center, but just like what happened with the Golden State Warriors back in '75, they weren't able to play on their home arena because they had other events going on. So they have tennis coming out here that I told you about earlier. They got the men's tennis out here at the Chase Center. And because that was, I guess, pre-planned before they thought the Valkyries would be in the playoffs, so they made that adjustment to have them as they had to set up all the accoutrements for the tennis courts and all that. So they couldn't play their inaugural playoff game at Chase Center. Then you would think, oh, they could go right across the bridge to Oakland. Oakland had something going on. So they ended up down at the Shark Tank or San Jose Arena. So they had to retrofit the Shark Tank for them. So they called it Valhalla South. So you had to go down 50-something miles south to get down to San Jose. It was an electric crowd. Unfortunately, I didn't get to cover it because, as they always do, you get these bandwagon and front-running media people that, for some reason, get carte blanche over everything. So they're at the opening game, and then you don't see them throughout the year, and then you come to the playoffs, and they're all back, and they say, "Oh, sorry, no room for you guys." Yeah, you peons, we're going to say you got to sit off to the side watching on TV like everybody else. So, and then they ended up having a double-digit lead going into the fourth quarter, up by 14, and Minnesota found a way to win it, even though they almost gave it right back to them. But yeah, so the Cinderella, it struck midnight down in the Silicon Valley, and so they're done. So now Minnesota advances. Indiana shocked everybody by advancing to the Final Four because they did this without Caitlin Clark. And with our media out here and all these ancillary characters out there, That could never be done. This woman saved the WNBA. So how in the world could her team make it to the Final Four of the WNBA playoffs without her?
And
So
she's ineligible to join them too, right?
yeah, unless they get some kind of loophole because hey, we got to worry about the ratings. We got to get her in there. And then you have
But you know what?
Vegas.
It's funny you say that. Man, they pick a bad time of year. I don't know, Mike. You know the WNBA better than I do.
Right.
But they're holding their playoffs just as football is kicking in, plus Major League Baseball coming down the home stretch.
Right. Well, you know what?
Do you think they get kind of lost in that?
Well, here's the thing. This year was kind of different. I think they have been extending the season a little bit more because they usually didn't have that happen. But I think they played more games this year, and then of course they're adding more teams next year, so it might even go longer next year. So I guess they thought that they have their niche that maybe people will watch them and say, hey, you know what? I'm more of a basketball fan, so as long as this doesn't interrupt the NBA, we'll be okay. But like you said, with baseball and football and college football, it's kind of they are in a quandary. And if you wanted to get those new fans, it's going to be hard when you're going up against these guys,
Right.
especially like I said, when you got the certain type of crowd that would never really do it, but they say, hey, these are dog days of baseball. I'll go see a WNBA game, whatever. But then you get to the playoffs like they are now, and then Final Four, and it has been extended a little longer than it used to be. I think now this will cause a problem, and without having their golden goose, Caitlin Clark. So,
Clark was left off the. She was left off. She couldn't play if she was healthy because she was left off the active roster going into the playoffs.
right, yeah, and and that gets really tricky because that happened, of course, to my favorite baseball player, the great Dave Parker, the late Dave Parker, when he got traded from California to the Toronto Blue Jays. They traded him after September 1st. And after September 1st, you're not eligible to be on the playoff list. And of course, Toronto won the whole thing that year and then won it again the following year. So I was really upset. I said, I can't believe they sat there and destroyed his opportunity to get another World Series ring on a technicality by trading him after the trade deadline or after the playoff roster needs to be set up. So yeah, so the injuries that she had that pretty much just took her out the rest of the year. It has to be ill timing, definitely has to be ill timing for how they're trying to, try to market her into this explosion of a Larry Bird, Magic Johnson situation. Because remember, their rookie years, Magic won it all, and then a year later, the Celtics won it all. Even though Larry wasn't MVP, but he still gets credit for leading them to the finals. So I guess they thought that's what Caitlin would be doing. And it's ironic that they've gotten farther than they did last year without her. So
Well, that they've actually. I'm just looking at some stuff here. The WNBA has seen a 3% rise in ratings despite Clark's absence. Uh, you know, that's better than a 3% decrease.
right,
So,
right.
so more and more people are watching the game.
But people don't want to hear it. All these people that were throwing all this stuff, the right wings and all that, they're throwing out all this nonsense about these guys hate her. They better kiss her feet because she's going to keep this league alive. So right here, like you said, you got 3% increase without her. Valkyrie's selling out every single game, over 18,000. So, there's a lot of other things happening. Then, of course, Napheesa Collier, you got Asia Wilson, they're doing their thing. So, and the thing about it is that the big story is, and people are not really paying attention to it because they're looking at the Valkyries kind of threw a lot of things off. But the Vegas team was like dead in the water, or I guess you could say, since they're in Vegas, dead in the desert. And they found an oasis. They went on a long winning streak, which still might be going on. And they just came out of nowhere and became like a powerhouse. So, they were left for dead after they lost their three-peat because they were trying to go for three in a row, just like the Chiefs, and they lost. And then they came in this year, they just looked like that run was over. And then all of a sudden, they went on a hot streak during the season, and now they're a team to really look out for in the finals or in the Final Four right now. And then also you got Minnesota, who's been the front runner all year. So those are the two teams that they probably think may be in the finals. But New York, if they take care of Phoenix, they're still a team to be reckoned with. And then as for Indiana, they're going to be the darling. I guess people are going to say, "Hey, win it for Caitlin." I'm sure people are saying that Caitlin's inspiring them from the sideline and all that. Somebody will make a narrative out of it that somehow she'll get credit for it if they somehow just get a miraculous championship out of this.
Well, they'll be coming. They're taking on Las Vegas, and the Lynx will get the winner of New York and the Phoenix Mercury. So, but think about it. It goes to show you how far and pardon my voice, Mike, I'm a little hoarse, the WNBA has come, man. Just out of the gate, we're talking about.
Right, exactly. But, like I said, if you go back to the beginning, because remember, there were two leagues going on. It was similar to NBA, ABA. And then the other league, pretty much, they just said, okay, this WNBA is too powerful. But remember, there were three people they were highlighting for the WNBA. It was now I'm forgetting her name. She's an announcer now, but it was Lisa Leslie.
Well,
they're getting her to represent LA. Then you had
Lobo.
Yeah, Lobo's in New York Liberty, and then Cheryl Swoops was the Houston team. So Cheryl Swoops gets pregnant, so that throws that off. But then Cynthia Cooper ended up coming out of nowhere and becoming the big star for the Houston Comets. But it started up, that wasn't the way it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be Cheryl Swoops. But Cheryl Swoops had to have the shoe contract, all that stuff was going on. And she got pregnant, and they had a baby named Jordan. So then she came back and she was a part of that four-peat, whatever they had. And then what's so crazy about it is that there's a dynasty in Houston, a dynasty in Detroit, and both of those teams left. That's when you knew the league was in trouble, because even your powerhouse teams can't even survive. And so now they're supposed to be bringing another team back to Detroit and back to Cleveland. But I'm thinking, are you being unfair to the cities that never had a WNBA team? I mean, of course, I'm always rep my area. I mean, where's the Milwaukee team? They had a professional team back in the day. They were obligatorily similar to the Bucks. They were the Milwaukee Doles. So you had the Milwaukee Doles and the Milwaukee Bucks. Yeah, I can't remember what the name of the league was back then, but I would think that if they do get a team in Milwaukee again, they will probably go back with that name or something similar. But you never know. Sometimes teams will go way off avant-garde away from the team that their male counterparts are. So,
hey, before we get to we're talking about the start of NFL season. But before we get to that, I just read this a few minutes before we came on air. Did you see what Syracuse coach Fran Brown said? This is from CBS Sports, written by Coda Nagle. The headline says, Fran Brown is the Syracuse coach, and he warns programs trying to steal his players in the transfer portal. He says, I ain't no bitch.
Wow. Is this football coach or a basketball coach?
He's a basketball coach. And I probably don't have to tell you, he's a brother talking stuff like
Well,
that.
I kind of gathered that. I don't know two other coaches that come across like that would use that type of verbiage.
Okay, check it out, Mike. This is Brown. I don't even care. Dudes be trying to push up on my wife. She's bad. She don't even got to tell me. It's just a game. It's what they do. For me, I don't care. But don't let me find out and then see you, cause I ain't no bitch. Then he go, I don't know why he's talking about his wife like that. And then it goes to the coaches coming after his players. If they came in and did it illegally and I find out, I'm not going to go tell you, but I'm going to come up on you like, what up? What's up? I'm going to see you. There's a couple of dudes I called and they tried to say, and I said, hey, man, just lose my number. Like, man, shut up.
Is he really trying to keep his job?
The transfer portal is definitely a volatile place in today's game. There is no doubt about that. At every level, my son coaches junior college basketball, and it's an issue there. So,
yeah.
But bro, I think you got to say it a little better than that.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, to use that type of analogy, I mean, come on, man. I mean, especially to invoke your wife and make that a comparison right. to your players. Yeah, I wonder how she felt about that. Like, okay, look, don't throw me out there, or putting our business out there. It's almost like you just basically said I'm a commodity, just like this team is. So yeah.
I feel what he's.
That's what I said. He must want to get fired. He must be saying, "Look, I'm tired of this. I can't live up to Jim Boeheim's standards. So let me find a way to get myself fired by running my mouth like that." If you want to get fired, just say something about what's his name, Charlie Kirk.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's what you're trying to do. Was that?
You're automatically gone.
Exactly.
That's for
sure.
As
we seen talk show hosts and all this stuff. I'm like, and they taking out the white talk show hosts. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
So if a black person says something, they're done.
Oh man, come on. So that's I thought that was kind of humorous. But I can take it, man. The thing is, and I was talking to somebody about this the other day, and at the and this is Syracuse football, Mike, and they, they're not on the level as the basketball program there.
Right.
And these lesser programs, if they get a good player, these bigger schools will come in there and get them. Especially FCS, HBCU teams with good players. Bro, you just train them for the Power Five. Because they can't.
Now.
My alma mater, your alma mater, we can't get these kids no money. So if somebody blow up, UT can come get them at Tennessee State. Say it again.
Yeah, well, think about it. If we looked at our last big star, that would be DRC. So just think if DRC was playing down there now.
Yeah. So
yeah, I'm sure they would be jumping all over to try to get him somewhere, like Florida or something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
but unfortunately for us, and especially like now, we just lost our last game, and we're 1-2. Got blown out by North Dakota State. So, this is a tough year. Then the crowds are very futile over at the Nissan. So, I don't know. It's going to be an interesting homecoming. I'm not going to make it down there. So, all my Nashville people, not going to make it down there this year. But we'll see if they can, do what they did in D.C. last year. They just took care of business and smoked them. But I don't know how good they're looking this year, because it's really the barometer would be, all right, were they just overwhelmed? Was that an anomaly that what happened to them against North Dakota State, because they did get blown out there last year, and then they
It
came
was
to
not an
Nashville.
It was not.
Yeah, and then they came to Nashville and smoked them. So, but then they won the first game, but then they just lost this one at home. Was it A&M? Was it Alabama A&M or?
They beat A&T.
Okay. Oh, A&T. Okay. All right. So yeah. So we after 3 games, new coach, he's feeling his way out, and we have to see what happens. Because remember when Eddie's first year, I think they played that game up in Canton, the Hall of Fame game. Wasn't that against Jackson State or something like that, or Grambling? And then he lost to Dion in that close game, and so it's almost like he's gonna have that same uphill battle like Eddie George had, but Eddie George had a little more cachet to his name, but still, it's one of those situations where we might be in another era of mediocrity. So
Well,
when is it going to get back to that?
Varlo's a good coach. They lost, Mike. They lost to South Dakota State. I think it was 58-3, 56-3, something like that.
Yeah.
Or maybe 7. They might have got a touchdown. But I'm looking at the budgets. This is for 24 FCS football budget. This is for last year. I hadn't seen this year's. The number one school in FCS for football was South Dakota State. They had a budget of almost $10 million.
The South Dakota State or North Dakota State?
South Dakota. North Dakota.
Oh, South Dakota. Okay.
South Dakota State was one at $9,620,000. Stony Brook was second. Montana State, another power. Montana, William and Mary. Now I'm looking for a HBCU. Morgan State was 20 with a $5 million budget. Southern had a $5.6 million budget. Grambling had a $5.5 million budget. FAMU 5.2. Austin Peay 5.1. OVC school. Used to be anyway. South Carolina State 4.1. Prairie View 4 million. Tennessee State didn't even make the list. And Moorhead had $1.5 million allocated for football, and they were 62. Even Jackson State is down the list at $3,700,000. They were 56. So
we're not even in the top 75.
Not even in the top 62. So that's a lack of commitment. That's definitely a lack of commitment from the university. Sure. Yeah. It leaves you speechless, doesn't it, man? I mean,
it's embarrassing. And of course, Brian would be on here probably doing the same thing. Like, wow.
Yeah. I mean,
that's sad.
And all that money gives them, I don't know, training tables, equipment, recruiting, housing to put these guys up. And Mike, they're doing that and playing in a NFL stadium.
Exactly. That's what makes it. That's what makes it the almost like the oxymoron part of it.
Right. That's my point.
Here you are, you're coming across with this low budget ragtag team, but you're playing over in this not just big stadium, but this NFL stadium, which is 30 of the best stadiums. Well, you got to meet less than 30 because a couple teams share, like in LA and New York. But yeah, it's still though, out of 20, maybe 28 stadiums, and your college is the one, or our college is the one that plays on NFL field. I mean, Yeah, you can't even say USC or UCLA anymore because they play at the Rose Bowl, but nobody plays there. They play at SoFi now. So, that remember how they used to be where they play. Well, hey, the Rams play at the Coliseum or the Raiders play down there. But now it's like, no, SoFi is for the Rams and the Chargers. UCLA, they even talked about UCLA having a similar situation where they get about 10,000 people at the games. They should be playing at their stadium on campus, and I was like, oh boy, that sounds familiar. But
Well,
of
they
course, their
just fired their
campus
coach,
stadium.
Sean Foster, who was a legendary
Yeah,
player.
exactly. Yeah, that shows you how bad it's getting, at UCLA. And we need to talk to our guy about that. Our guy and frat brother, our musician,
Larry, yeah,
being a former Bruin.
yeah, yeah. Larry played with Deshaun.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So we need to get a hold of Larry and just see what his thoughts are of what's going on in Westwood.
Yeah, yeah. Um, how about Jadeveon Clowney? Just signed with the Cowboys, about to head out there, and damn if he didn't get arrested, man.
Yeah. I just sometimes, especially with the climate that's going on, the political climate, and we already kind of touched upon, this uh, tragic situation that happened with one of the front runners for the right, and also, a person that they really looked up to as being maybe a new beacon for their side. So with that happening and that tragic moment that happened there, you see how there's been a lot of fallout from that. And then with these athletes, of course, people are saying, "Hey, we keep hearing that we shouldn't include politics with sports, but yet, what was the first thing that happened after this tragic moment where this gentleman was killed? How dare you football teams not honor him?" You know, they basically calling the 5 teams that didn't do it traitors. I was like, are you guys kidding
Good
me?
point. Huh? That's a good point.
Yeah, I'm like, so think about how that did, and then of course, and
Because he was
I
not
always
a
said this.
he was he was not a political figure. He didn't hold office
I'm
anywhere.
saying, then trying to compare him to MLK and all this. I'm like, how many times you guys gonna really insult our intelligence? So then we get to the team that I knew would do it, and that was the Cowboys. That was pretty much obligatory. But then you had, your area, Detroit didn't do it. Surprisingly, Cincinnati didn't do it because Cincinnati is one of those interesting areas because it's right there on the border across the river from slavery. That was the area you got over the Ohio River and the Cincinnati freedom, but Cincinnati was kind of really ambiguous. And let's not forget their airport is actually in Kentucky. Their airport is actually in Kentucky, so they still got ties to below the Mason-Dixon line. But yeah, it was just interesting. Some of the teams that said no, we're not going to do that. Minnesota's always been pretty progressive, but then you got my state. You got the Packers, which don't have an owner. It's basically supposed to be the team is the community owns the team, but yet proudly put that up there on the screen. I just said, how many? When are you guys gonna say, you know what? We've had enough of you guys just basically defecating on us. We need to just say, you know what? You guys do another gesture like that again without us really having a voice in it. We need to really just stop our labor force. And that's what it's going to take to actually get some rights there and they know that they will never do that. Just like how the whole Kaepernick thing, like, he can sit there and take a knee, but they won't have any kind of unity. We know that we can break them because there's going to always be, antithesis that'll say, no, Kaepernick's really not that good. So, I don't know why he's doing this. He shouldn't be doing this, But yet you sit there and talk about how you guys feel disrespected. But you got to do something about it because there's no way a predominantly black league should be forced to have to actually praise somebody that was basically talking down to them. everybody of their ilk, even the athletes. They were talking down to them, calling them idiots and definitely dissing the black women. You got black women of huge prestige like Kamala and Ketanji Brown and the Supreme Court, pioneers of the most major moments of history of this country. And this guy is belittling them, talking about how unintelligent they are. But yeah, you dropped out of school and you're going to talk about people that have PhDs and masters and law degrees. So that shows you how idiotic it is, and that he can sit there and have those type of credentials and belittle the other one's credentials just because they're of the black persuasion. And then that stuff is actually respected. And we're supposed to bow down and say, oh my gosh, yeah, he had his moments and he had his opinions, but that's what this country's all about. He just tried to have a debate with everyone, and we should respect that. And if you guys say anything bad about him, you're gonna lose your job. I'm like, wow. How did we get to this?
I heard the best line: "How you die does not redeem how you lived."
Exactly.
That was the best line I've heard. How you die does not redeem how you live. So that's that. But your thoughts on the season so far? Kansas City 0-2. They should get well this weekend, though. They got the Giants coming to town.
Yeah, but the Giants don't look horrible. They actually blew that game. They blew that last game. I mean, Russell
Dallas
looked good, but then he got that clutch interception or non-clutch interception. So, that's not a gimme. That's really not a gimme, and especially the way they've been playing. I mean, look, you know how they play down to their competition. You know how they do against the Raiders. The Raiders beat them, and Raiders were, terrible the last few years. And I remember covering the game last year in Vegas with Kansas City came in. And I asked Patrick, I said, okay, you guys are undefeated at the time. You guys are undefeated right now, and this team is winless. How in the world are they playing you guys this close? And even last year when they, upset you guys. And he just said, hey, this has been a long going rivalry. And then, sometimes, when that happens, those records go out the window. I said, yeah, you make a good point. But still, you guys are, back-to-back champions. You shouldn't, and you're undefeated right now. You should be blowing this team off the field. This is, you guys are looking really mediocre this year. And that's what last year was all about. And then they starting off this year looking mediocre. Philly, the revenge of the Super Bowl, they just wiped the floor with you guys, even though they didn't win by a whole lot, but they still was in total control. And then you lost to the Chargers. And then Chargers, like, you never know what you're going to get with them, but it looks like, hey, they got Harbaugh. Harbaugh's coming off a national championship in college, and he's coming here to resurrect the Chargers and get them back to respectability. And he could be a hero by bringing them their first Super Bowl ever. So there's a lot going on, and in Kansas City seems to be like in that malaise of, do we still have it, or is this the beginning of the end?
They seem stale to me.
Right. But think about it, though. The one that's making all the headlines with his off-the-field stuff and disengagement and all that stuff, who made the key mistake in that last loss? Patrick put it right in his hands. He let it go through his hands. He used to be sure-handed.
Yeah, that was a touchdown. Through his hands
and they get an interception.
That's Kelce. That should have been a touchdown.
That's what I'm saying. Kelce, the last 2 years have been, it's almost like you got 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Are you ready to hang it up, or, are you ready to play? But it just, and you don't want to blame it on Taylor, but still, for some reason, he's not taking care of business. And I'm sure his ex, the sister, well, at least the black girl, I don't want to call her sister if she doesn't have those qualifications. But she probably will say, look how he played when he's with me. I'm sure she's saying that. But, it's got to be right here for Travis Kelce right now. It's got to be
Well,
psychological because
I
he
think
he
Kelsey,
definitely did not lose that many skills like that, but for
but I
some
think his
reason he's
game,
not getting it done.
I think his game is deteriorating. He's an older guy, and
Right,
the,
but
the game deteriorates, man. But there's no doubt. I mean, that's a simple catch for him. He'd be 50
right, that's what
years
I'm saying.
old and
So
make that catch. That was a
right,
critical
well,
play.
you remember how we had people like Jackie Smith, which those veteran tight end, and his pinnacle moment was against the Steelers, Super Bowl 13, where Roger Staubach hit him, threw it to him, and he dropped it, and it was like, oh, I feel so bad for him. But it was like he had a really good career, but just like Bill Buckner, but it got reduced to that. He'll always be remembered for that, and you forget about that he had a really good career. Well, Kelce was like, he and Gronk were like the best tight ends in the league for many years. So then it's all of a sudden like the last 2 years, it's almost like he's dropped down to mediocre now, and it's like the things that's happening. Like I said, it seems more psychological. It's not like he's like not able to beat anybody on the route anymore, or he's not able to do a fly pattern and go past everybody or seam route or anything like that. But it's like simple stuff like this. Dude, it doesn't matter how old you are, you still should have the hands to catch the ball.
Catch the
Now,
ball, man. Catch
letting
the
the
ball.
right, letting the ball now, yards after the catch, yeah, your age and all that stuff may be affected by that. You might not be able to, break away from guys like you used to or break out of the tackle. But catching the ball should still be muscle memory for that.
You
And
know, you know who did that forever? And I think he played his last season here. He might have been 38, 39. Anquan Bolden.
right,
He caught,
yep,
right. He caught everything, and he'd take a, after he caught it, he'd run about 3 steps and somebody knock him down. But he caught
right,
it. He just couldn't run after he
exactly.
caught it. And
Exactly. And that's what you want. That's what you want from a veteran. It's like,
yes,
hey, I'm
track.
not expecting you to, get like 80 yards after the catch every time, or beat your man, and because like a lot of tight ends will have linebackers on, so beat your man, and then also be able to uh, get yourself in the slot in the secondary. Yeah, you might not be able to do all those kind of routes anymore, but a simple pitch and catch, especially down in the end zone, you got to catch that. And you
Hey,
definitely can't let it go through your fingers. Knock it down if you can't catch it.
tell me this, Mike. Will we see Shedeur Sanders play this year?
I don't know. I mean, that whole mess at Cleveland, I don't know. I mean, because there's already people are already concerned about Flacco, but and of course they want the second quarterback. They definitely want to give him a fair shot because hey, there's no way we're gonna leapfrog Shedeur over him because my gosh, he was picking the fifth round, and we picked this guy in the second and third round, so there's no way he's gonna get past him, and he hasn't had any first team reps and all this stuff. So every excuse will come into play. Only way he would probably get in is if he's an absolute disaster like he was that first preseason game, throwing that pick six and all that stuff. But of course, they made every excuse for him. And then when Shedeur had a good game, it's like, oh yeah, it's only preseason. Then they gave him the second game. That's when they had all the linemen that weren't going to be on the team. So then all of a sudden now he's running for his life. And then they could throw in all the things that they would say about him in Colorado. He holds the ball too long. He does this, he does that, so all the negative traits that they say he had at Colorado, even though he was a Heisman candidate, that's what kills me is that they make it seem like he was a mediocre player and, he never did anything in big games. But he's playing at a Power 4 school. And, it'd be different if the way he was playing at Colorado, he was at Jackson State, and then they could throw in he's playing against inferior competition. He's not doing anything, of that Division I-A level. But he went to Colorado as one of the top players in the quarterbacks in the country. People thought he was going to be the number one pick. Remember?
Yeah.
So then all of a sudden the draft comes. All of a sudden now people have revisionist history going on. Like, yeah, he really didn't do that much at Colorado. So, I can see why teams don't want to pick him. And then you got to throw in, yeah, and his attitude is just not good. He's not humble enough. Basically all the tropes that are thrown at legends.
I think that what was behind a lot of that. And as far as being Deion, all that work tested, it's like we're gonna show this kid, you ain't running things around here. You're in NFL now. I totally agree with you there. Now tell me, Mike, we just got a couple minutes, man. We got a late start tonight. How does it look watching Aaron Rodgers in a Steelers jersey? I just don't know what to think about that because I always cheer for Mike Holmgren. And I always root against Aaron Rodgers. So help me through this, bro. How do I get through this?
Well, think about it. Think about it for me. I remember him in a Cal uniform. So he's in a Cal uniform. He sat there in the draft, all cocky, thought, yeah, I'm going to go to the Niners. And then guess who was with the Niners at the time? Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy was offensive coordinator. He had authored the worst offense in the NFL back then and never really accomplished anything offensively with the Niners. But yet he gets a premier job with the Packers with no head coaching experience. And I just said, look at this. Either you're the luckiest man ever, or this lets you know why that Rooney Rule was needed. Because, come on, this guy, what has he really accomplished that could make you say, oh, this guy's a genius. He'll just be awesome for this Packers team. Yet he gets there, and somehow with the guy that he overlooked, or he and the Niners overlooked, they get the Super Bowl. So, and that now is on his resume, even though people think that he's a horrible coach and things like that in Dallas. He still can say, look at my resume. I'm a Super Bowl champion. Not only a Super Bowl champion, but a Super Bowl champion for one of the elite teams in NFL history. So that right there is going to be staying power for him the rest of his life. But yeah, you get a situation where Aaron, like I said, I saw him at Cal, then lo and behold, he ends up on the Packers. So of course I'm going to see him a lot then. And then he goes to the Jets. That's when it started to really look odd. And that was a total disaster in New York. And now he's in Pittsburgh. And first game was like, oh my goodness, this is Hall of Fame MVP Aaron Rodgers, 4 touchdowns. And then the next game, man. And so that's what I'm saying. That you don't know what to expect now because you had one game, he looked like the old Aaron Rodgers. And then the second game, he looked like old Aaron Rodgers. So game 3 might be the tiebreaker. We'll see if he's going to be like the great signing for the Steelers, and then it's going to be a situation where they can get back into respectability and possibly be a Super Bowl contender, or is it going to be, man, all we got to make sure we do is have a winning record or have a 500. Well, you can't have 500 record. Unfortunately, now you can't have 500 record anymore unless you end up 8-8 in a tie. That's the only way.
I got to figure that one out because I'm a big fan of the coach there. I'm fraternity brother. I just don't know how to deal with that because I am not a fan of Aaron Rodgers, man, by any stretch of the imagination. I wish they'd have kept kid that just went to New York. He was in Chicago. What's the quarterback, Mike?
Yeah, Fields. Yeah, Justin Fields.
Justin Fields.
See, that's the thing with that is that Justin Fields had to get over that whole hump of, dude, you're not throwing for anything, and you pretty much just rely on if your team has a good defense. And that's what was going on with Pittsburgh. And people are still saying that right now. And I said the same thing. when he was the starter for those 6 games, Pittsburgh's defense was playing awesome. All of a sudden, Russell takes over, and the offense looked a whole lot better. Then next thing you know, when they went on that losing streak, the defense just looked terrible. They were giving up all kind of yards. So now, this year started off, even though they won that first game, people were questioning the defense. What's going on with the defense? So that's going to be the bugaboo this year is that, yeah, you're probably going to get some pretty prolific games from Aaron. You might get a couple games, man, but the defense needs to be consistent all 17 games, and they've already got off to a bad start the end of last year and the beginning of this year. Even though they got, the star DB that made that great play against Justin Fields when he threw that pass and he jarred it out. So, and of course, Aaron was trying to play, great ball against his old team, and he did that. But will that be their greatest accomplishment of the year?
It might. I'm sure you had to laugh when you heard this story about the Clippers and Kawhi getting paid under the books, allegedly. They could be in big trouble with this deal. There was a report that said that Clippers paid Kawhi Leonard $28 million for a no-show job as part of this deal to come there. And they signed him thinking all these great things were going to happen, and it just hadn't worked out. And now Adam Silver was talking about lowering the boom on the Clippers if he finds out there was something not right.
And what would that be? Is it going to be just like with the previous owner? You think that'll happen? They'll get rid of him like they get rid of the previous owner?
He could. He could. Let me see what he said here.
Because think about it.
Said he's getting to the bottom of it. You're familiar with the story, right?
Right, yeah. But it was just some of the details I was thinking like, okay, are they saying that they paid him even though they knew he wasn't going to be on the court? Or that's why it gets kind of ambiguous where it's like, what exactly are they saying that he was getting paid for?
They were trying to they paid him to circumvent the cap.
Right.
That's what the allegation is. Okay, right. Look, we'll just give you this, and it doesn't go on the books for the NBA.
Okay, got you.
And,
well, but
let me see if I can get Silver's comments. He said, my powers are broad, and I plan on getting to the bottom of this. We will get to the bottom of this. He has some more. I just can't have to find him. But he seems.
But think about
he seems pissed
But think about the original
scenario.
Think about the original scenario, the 1920 season, right? So right before the pandemic happened. So Kawhi is a free agent. He's leaving Toronto because, he did that 1-year bid up there. And for some people, got him as the greatest Raptor ever, even after 1 year, which is ridiculous. But remember, he pretty much held the Lakers hostage. Remember how they were like, oh my goodness, what if he goes to the Lakers, goes back home to the Lakers, and how great would that team be with LeBron, Kawhi, and, whatever else the scenario is going to be. I think that they may already had AD then. So they said if they have all those guys. So then they wait to the last second, and they also was like, hey, maybe Paul George will come home too. So they all basically waited to the last second, and then they said, sorry, LeBron, we're not coming there. We're going to the Clippers, and we're going to be the team of the LA. We're going to be the LA team. And they did all those commercials, with Kawhi with his old school car and wearing New Balance or some generic type shoe. And that whole campaign was to basically besmirch and embarrass LeBron. But yet the Cavaliers, I mean, the Lakers end up winning the championship, and they kept talking about, oh no, the Clippers weren't really interested during the bubble, and well, this and this happened, and this happened. So that whole thing blew up in their face, trying to embarrass King James now, but they was the one to end up winning, and the Clippers have been a disappointment the entire 10-year of Kawhi, and of course before that they were the joke of the NBA anyway.
And that's the irony to me, Mike. They went through
Yeah.
all this trouble, put themselves in all kind of harm's way now for a guy that did nothing for them. They did nothing for
There
him.
you go. There you go.
And
I mean,
that
you know,
could be one of the
when you think
worst-
about it,
That could be one of the worst moves in the history of the NBA.
right? But my thing is this: that you think about it. You think about a lot of these players that they really try to put up there as elite players and instant Hall of Famers. Think about this. Kawhi got so much credit for playing defense on LeBron in 14, right? He got finals MVP, maybe averaged about 14 points. Listen, oh my goodness, he held LeBron to like 33 points a game. Okay? So he got credit, he got finals MVP for that.
He held
Then you
him
go
to
to
33 points a game.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's the same thing they did with Iguodala. They said Iguodala's defense on LeBron is the reason why we gave him Finals MVP. So you got two flawed Finals MVPs because of they wanted their disdain towards LeBron. So then you go to 19 where he goes up to Toronto. So the Bucks are supposed to be the preeminent champs that year. So they're up 2-0 on Toronto. Remember, Toronto just barely got past Philly on that corner shot that bounced around all those times, right? And this is Kawhi coming off the injury where he said, I don't want to stay in San Antonio because they didn't really show me any love during my injury. So he's coming off that, and it's like, okay, yeah, he's going to Toronto. It may be fun, whatever. So then they play Milwaukee, and it looks like Milwaukee's about to sweep them. Game 3, the Bucks somehow fumbled that ball. Then they put up the wall against Giannis. Giannis became irrelevant the rest of that series. They won Game 3 in overtime, then took out the Bucks. Then, of course, you get to the finals, and then you get KD hurt for the Warriors, and then eventually Clay goes out, and they win it all. They won every single game in Oakland, too, and they win it all. And then, of course, he's the hero. And what a strategic move by him to leave San Antonio and then come up to the Great White North and give them their first ever championship. And also, he's a Canadian and American hero. So that's where it all got blown out of proportion. And then that whole, I'm going to come back to and make the Clippers a champion and try to tear apart the whole LA stranglehold, the Lakers stranglehold of the Tinseltown, but that has not worked at all, and it may really come crashing down now. And here's my thing. I thought that the owner, who was a Microsoft guy, I thought he would move the Clippers up to Seattle.
Yeah.
Instead of sharing the arena with the Lakers, why didn't you send them up to Seattle? Because they keep talking about how Seattle deserves a team back. Here you are, a Microsoft guy. What kind of hero would you be to go back up to Microsoft country and make the Clippers the Seattle team?
I would love to see Seattle get another team.
Was that?
I said I would love to see them get a team back up there.
Well, see, for me, I wonder why. It's funny how they pick certain cities that deserve a team after they lose a team. So then, doesn't Kansas City deserve another team? Because their team is in Sacramento. They haven't won a thing. Does St. Louis deserve a team? They're in Atlanta. They haven't won a thing. So it's like, why is Seattle owed a team when you really think about it? They let that team go. I mean, I know you could say, well, that was the owner's fault and all that, but you still got to look at other teams that lost their teams, and then why are they not ever up for, a reunion or bring the team back to their area?
I think the next team is going to go to I think Vegas is going to get a.
Oh yeah, definitely Vegas. But once again, that's an up and coming city that now is going to end up being one of those major league cities because they'll have all four major sports and including the MLS and the WNBA. So Vegas is going to be one of those super sports towns when it used to be off limits. And it was just basically a small desert town. That only thing that was really important there was the strip. UNLV was the biggest story back in the 90s. Now, fast
we were talking
forward,
about that the
all
other
about
day.
pro sports now.
You couldn't get a ticket to
That's what I'm
UNLV.
saying.
Hey, Mike, we got to get out of here, man. It's good to get caught up. I'm hoping to get back on this week and try to catch up with former Tennessee State football legend Brian Ransom, and because I want to really dig into the surge of Black quarterbacks in the NFL these days. So we're going to set that interview up. But until then, from my friend and frat brother Mike Robertson, I'm Rick Hampton. Peace, everybody.